Welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk, our first midweek show of the 2025 season. Happy Thursday to you all. Still getting confused with last night's match where we saw the orange and blue down in Tegucigalpa, Honduras, facing off against Motagua. And we saw the debut of some fantastic players we had high hopes for, and left many of us asking the question, Bucha who? Am I right? Guys, we're excited to talk about the show tonight. Maybe not, but we're excited to talk about the show tonight. Let me welcome in our host. My name is Brian Biedenbach, hosting the show this evening, and I've got my friend Coach Brad Goff. Coach, how you doing tonight?
I'm just so happy to be sitting over on this chair instead of in the host chair tonight. So you ask me the questions, you just throw out some softballs, and I'm just going to knock them out of the park. I got impressed. My very first producer ever in this business, Mr. Nicky Soup and Sausage Suberling, who apparently is tuning in tonight.
Yeah, how about that? Coach, you did a fantastic job the other night. That was fun. Although you started with the big old lie that this is your one and only time hosting the Monday night show, we're gonna make sure that that's not the truth. So welcome back. It's good to talk to you just a couple days apart. Welcome into the show, Josh Dye. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you for having me on. Considering myself the midweek specialist out here. Work schedules and whatnots not allowing me to get on the Monday show. But once we said oh, hey, we're gonna do a Thursday show, I'm like, oh, sign me up. I'm the specialist. I'll be your Thursday man throughout the rest of the season.
Fantastic. I know we talked a little bit before the show about maybe our Thursday night shows being a little bit shorter than our normal Monday night shows, and you were a little concerned you might get muted. Your voice wasn't going to be heard as much in these midweek shows.
So Thursdays, if you look at the calendar, there's not a lot of them, so I got to maximize my airtime when I can get it, and then you come out here and say, oh, it's a shorter one. It's like, okay, well, you're putting the muzzle on me already. All right, I got to get my hot takes out early. So come out firing here today.
Well, I'm looking forward to that, Josh. I'm sure we're going to have some hot takes tonight, and I know you always bring the heat. So excited to have you. And who knows, maybe these Thursday night midweek shows after a Wednesday match will be a hit, and they'll be our longest shows of the season. We'll see. So
take the handcuffs off is all I say. Take the handcuffs off.
That's right. Welcoming back to the show. It's been a couple weeks. Nathan Forstoffel. Did I say that right?
Forstoffel. Yeah, you nailed it. First time. That's great.
Awesome. Welcome back, Nathan. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Brian. Thanks for having me. And I also love that we're adding the Thursday shows. I know that used to be a common trivia night, but we're now doing trivia on Tuesdays. So Thursdays are free to talk some football on a Thursday night. And maybe we should add a trivia segment to the show, something for the viewers on the Thursdays.
I would love that. I'll let you take over. You and Josh can put together some Thursday night FC Cincinnati trivia for us, and we'll just roll with it. Coach will have all the right answers, and I'll just MC the whole thing. How's that?
Yeah. Hey, we got some newer listeners, so we can dig back into those early USL years and get some stumpers.
Yeah. Well, good, guys. I'm glad to have you. It'll be a fun night tonight. We do want to thank our sponsor, Apollo Home. Temps have plummeted, and we warned you all year long to keep things cozy with Apollo Home. Peace of mind is worth the $29 tune-up. Get our great sponsor on your schedule soon. And I know that I'm out of town, but I know that many of our hosts and many of our listeners have used Apollo Home, and we're grateful for their sponsorship on the show. Guys, Josh mentioned some hot takes, and I thought, we've started the show for a long time with our bests and our worsts, and I just thought maybe tonight, because it's Thursday, it's our first midweek show of the season, we might try something different and share some hot takes. I'm going to call them predictions that we should not make based on our first match of the season. All right. Nathan, I see you've got one in here already. I'll just start with you. Give Josh some time to think. I know he wants some time on the mic, so let's give him time to fire. So Nathan, I'll toss it to you.
Yeah, no, immediately as soon as we hit that, I'm going to start with our first goal of the season, right? Pavel Bucha hits that screamer into the upper 90 and instantly my first thought was over under 10 goals on this guy. Hammer the over. Pavel Bucha, he might be your leading scorer this year. What? Denkey, sure, you go blow, 16 million on him? Maybe even a waste, right? Because Pavel Bucha, you had the solution here all along. Lucho who, Denkey who, Pavel Bucha. He's your man of the match, and he's going to be your MVP for this team this year, not the league. Not willing to go that far. That's still probably somebody else's. But
I love that take, and it is truly a prediction you should not make based on one game of the season. Nathan, he did look good. I will give you that. What a fantastic performance by our man Pavel Bucha last night. Josh, what do you got?
Kevin Denkey is not just worth the price of admission. He is worth double what we paid for him already. And so my hot take is going to break some hearts. But Kevin Denkey will be sold on out of FC Cincinnati for 3 times what he was bought for. 3 times, because he's been that good in one game. He showed everything that we all heard about. And it's like, okay, he's 24. He's this good. Look out. MLS record outbound transfer coming within the next 2 years.
Oh, man.
Market.
You are breaking hearts already. People fell
Enjoy
in
the
love.
ride while it's here. Enjoy the ride while it's here.
People fell in love with Kevin Denkey and his performance in that match already, Josh. We hate to see him go, but he said it himself. He wants to be in Cincinnati. The team wanted him, and he wants to be here. So let's hope that he hangs on a little bit longer than your prediction that you should not make after game 1. Coach, what you got?
So I guess, first of all, no worries that Kevin Denkey is apparently being sold for like $70 million out of MLS because we have the future Golden Boot winner, Pavel Bucha, so well done to the new folks here. I'm going to reel it back in just a bit. Still going to be a hot take, though. I think that Miles Robinson, on the strength of his MLS season, is going to play himself into a starting role with the U.S. men's national team. And the reason why that is a hot take is because he is not based in Europe. He has not been a starter for probably 3-4 years at this point, if not more. He wasn't a full-time starter at the last World Cup. So a lot of people look at him as a backup, but I was really impressed with his ball progression. And that is what Mauricio Pochettino is going to want out of him. We all know he can defend. He's a fantastic 1v1 defender. Nobody else in the pool other than Tim Ream can pass the ball out of the back. And Miles Robinson, has not ever been the best passer in the league, but I don't know if he's added that club to his bag or if it's just something he hasn't been asked to do, but he was raking passes last night. And so he's going to play himself into a starting role with the U.S. men's national team.
All right, Coach, we're gonna see how that one plays out here real soon, and see where Miles Robinson ends up there in his position with the U.S. men's national team. Guys, I'm gonna jump in and I'm gonna say there was a player on the field last night that no one has mentioned yet that played for 30 minutes. He gets an assist. He gets his first goal, and he's been with the team for about 4 entire days so far. I'm going to go with Evander, MLS League MVP, based on his performance in one game and no time to build chemistry with this team. We saw it immediately, except for that first pass down the sideline that just missed everybody. He came alive a few minutes later, and I think Evander is the MLS MVP. Who's Messi? Who's Lucho? We've got our guy, I think, this season. So that's my hot take. Any pushback on that, gentlemen?
There's no chance in this day with Father Don Garber presiding over the league that anybody but Lionel Messi wins that award, unless Lionel Messi just doesn't play for some reason. If he gets hurt really early on, we saw him play half the available minutes last year or something and still win it. So it doesn't matter how good Evander is. I'm not sure he's got a chance.
I don't see it. I don't see it. That's my prediction I should make after one match. I don't see Messi topping Evander. Josh?
Evander's biggest threat to the MVP is already on the roster, and clearly Pavel Bucha. So who's gonna be? It's gonna be neck and neck. Evander Bucha. It'll be fun to watch for sure.
Yeah.
And I say,
yeah.
Josh, and I say, you were supposed to come with the hot takes. That's the most base thing you said.
That's
all night.
sure. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. You know, look at me already going back.
If you're listening live, we would love to know your hot takes, what predictions you would make that you shouldn't make based on game one. Put them in the chat. We'd love to share them as the show goes on. And if you're listening later, sorry you missed out on the live show, but we'll catch you the next time. Guys, let's talk about this game a little bit. We talked about some hot takes and made some predictions that we should or shouldn't make. FC Cincinnati went to Honduras to face Motagua on Wednesday night. It was a late night game, 10 p.m. Eastern time for many of us watching. We stayed up really late. It brought home a 4-1 win with goals from Pavel Bucha, as we mentioned, two goals. Pavel Bucha with the brace in his opening match in the 28th minute and then again in the 78th minute. We had Rodrigo Azmendi in the 41st minute to tie it up just before halftime. So we went in 1-1. Kevin Denkey comes out just after halftime and puts his first goal of the season in with Evander late in the game in the 88th minute with a beautiful flying karate volley that hits underneath the crossbar over the keeper's head. It was a beautiful goal. Let's talk about this first goal, gentlemen, from Pavel Bucha. Is this something that we're going to see more of? No Lucho on the field, right? We've talked about this ad nauseum, right, in previous podcasts, where our playmaker is not out there. So we're relying on someone else bringing the ball up the pitch and just advancing. That person happened to be Obi, that brought the ball forward, took the first crack at it. Guys, what did you see on that goal? How the ball progressed, how the ball got back to Bucha's foot and ended up in the upper 90?
What I found so interesting about that first goal, Brian, was exactly what you said, the different pieces and how they came together, and how I feel like this really embodied this new 2025 FC Cincinnati. First of all, that first pass was a long line splitting pass from Obi Wobodo, which we haven't seen a lot of. But the reason why is he had a giant alley to put it through because he wasn't having to put it on a striker's foot. You can put the ball into the channel for Kevin Denkey, and he's going to run and he's going to bully defenders and he's going to get on it. Then we saw Kevin use some fancy footwork to cut a defender, play it back to the top of the box. Then obviously Kubo shot is blocked. And from there, who is it? Pavel Bucha getting forward, getting those touches in and around zone 14, where basically Lucho went out, I think, at training and painted it in red and told every other midfielder, do not enter this area. This is mine. So Kubo, Bucha, all of them had to avoid that most dangerous area of the pitch last year. Here we have Kubo popping up a score. So you have the willing runner, Kevin Denkey, you have the pass forward by Obi Wobodo, and then the finish by Bucha. I think this kind of embodies what we'll see a lot more of for FC Cincinnati.
Yeah, I think we saw Pavel Bucha shine in a couple of the preseason matches as well. So I think he seems to be one that was waiting for his opportunity to get forward a little bit more last season. He wasn't asked to, he wasn't dependent on to do that. And so I like the fact that he's getting forward. Obi's progressing the ball a little bit more. It opens up some space in front of those two guys to get forward. What were other highlights in that match? Like, we saw Kevin Denkey get involved. Let's talk about his play for just a moment. We saw Kevin Denkey get involved in so much activity inside the box, making runs from outside, from wide positions to the middle, taking on defenders. He had a couple breakaways where not truly breakaways, I guess. He still had to beat a defender to get in. The guy was making things happen, and he was drawing the attention of those backs from Motagua. Talk about his play just a little bit. Is he as advertised?
I think so. I mean, I was writing notes when I was doing my rewatch today, and it was like, goal, Denkey starts to play. Goal, Denkey there again. Goal, Denkey starts it again. Like, he was active in every way, the way you want your striker to be. I was getting vibes of Brenner, where he would drop back in and kind of facilitate a little bit outside of the 18. And then the striker instinct would kick in, where he would just go hunt after that. His goal, he came back, dropped back in, found Engel out wide, and then immediately beat 4 defenders to the spot. And it was just like, it was that movement that I'm going to seek the ball. I'm going to go find my spot, that striker's mentality of finding my spot. And then you saw the physicality that he did. He's giving me vibes of like Brenner fluidity and movement with Brandon Vasquez physicality and just knowing where to be in the position. And like, I know we joked at the beginning of the show, but like the money that they spent for him in one game seems already worth it just from how active he is. Coach talked about it, him running in the channels for the first goal, him running to the spots for the second, for his goal. Like, he was active for 3 of the 4 goals. And I don't think you could have asked any more from him in his debut. I mean, obviously you take the competition for what it is, but this is a guy that's been with this team for a couple weeks, and he's already finding the pockets and displaying the things that you want to see from him. It's incredible.
Yeah, one of the things that stood out, we talked about it on the last show. The coach hosted, I believe, the early guy Lucas Engel that we haven't talked about quite yet. A guy that's not necessarily asked to get forward and be that attacking player down the left side, was still getting forward. But Denkey's goal came off an early cross. It wasn't a high cross. It was a low ball through the middle. And we talked, I don't know how many shows ago, about Denkey thriving off balls coming from the outside. Lucas Engel saw him early making that run and played the ball at just the right time. And he didn't finish it at a one touch. He still had to hold a defender off, turn him, and finish. So the run, the strength, the turn, and the finish, we saw, I think, the whole package in that one play. Coach, what would you add to Denkey's play?
Yeah, I mean, he had 2 key passes to put on top of all of his running and his bodying and all of those things. I was really impressed with his feet. There were several times that, both of Bucha's goals, even though he didn't get an assist on them, he created by creating space from his defender with good footwork. There was the one chasing into the channel we already talked about. And then there was the one at the top of the box where he was able to create a bit of space and then give it to Evander, who then moved it on to Bucha, who with a really nice finish there from zone 14 again. So I think you're starting to see a guy that we haven't had in a long time, because even Brenner, with as clean as he was on the ball, he was not creating his own shots. He was not leaving a defender, creating a yard of space and hitting a shot. And Denkey, for his goal, that's exactly what he did. That shot should have been blocked, but he did this thing in the coaching world we call it a Conti move, or a hook turn, where he fakes like he was going to shoot with his left, put his toe on the ball and dragged it over to his right. And then from there was an easy finish because the defender lunged to block that left-footed shot that didn't happen. I was just so impressed. He's definitely going to have to get some players around him. Hopefully this is Evander that can give him the ball in space so he's not always creating his own shot. And we definitely saw him leave a few chances on the field, right, too. But I think overall, for being in Honduras, not fully match fit, playing with guys he hadn't played with before, I think is a really good debut.
Yeah, Coach, I think you nailed it there in your first statement there about his feet, the way he plays, his touch on the ball. We've seen a number of strikers come in that I know many of us within CST, many of the fans have been really critical of the touch of our strikers. They can get in, they've got a good shot, but man, don't put the ball at their feet and ask them to do a whole lot with it. Kevin Denkey may be a guy that we can trust a little bit more with that. Let's talk a little bit about Lucas Engel for a second, Nathan. What did you see in his play down that left side as our new left wing back?
Yeah, I mean, that was something we talked about a lot at the beginning of the season and preseason building into that could be identified as a weakness for us. And so to see Engel, I mean, I think he looked fantastic in a debut. I mean, he looked really pacey, had a lot of hustle. Yeah, he had that crucial role in that first goal, right? Yeah, no, I think it was a fantastic debut for him. And yeah, just looking forward to see more of that play through the left. It was a little bit heavy on the play through the left to start the game, but it evened out a little bit more as the game go. But I was really impressed with Engel in his debut.
Yeah, Engel looked.
I worry, Brian. Sorry, I wanted to jump in because I thought Engel looked good and he's gotten a lot of praise, and I'm glad for that. I was super high on him to start just as a player coming in to play both sides of the ball. The thing that made me sit back and worry a little bit is he got dribbled 4 times on the night. And then we saw on the goal that Motagua did score, he was reluctant to go press that crosser of the ball, probably worried about his speed. So whether it's Teenage Hadebe or somebody else, Flores, somebody coming in, playing behind him, whoever is back there is going to have to be aware that even though Engel's a super solid player, he does not appear to have, the foot speed that we've had on that side, even with Alvaro Barriao and Luca Orishanu, who are more quick than fast, but Engel seems even a step slower than that.
Yeah, and he seemed to get banged up a little bit last night too. I thought he was going to sub out sooner than he did because there were a couple times he got knocks and was slow getting up, was slow to get to his feet and get back up to speed after that. I know that happens in matches, but he looked a little slower to recover. But then there was the moment late in the game where I don't know, the forward that he was going up against the ball just busted free about 20 yards upfield, and he and the Motagua forward just kind of looked at each other. And do you guys remember this? And they just kind of went, who's going to get there? No one else is around. And it was a foot race, a 25-yard foot race that Engel got there first. And I didn't anticipate that. So it doesn't say much maybe about the speed of the Motagua player, but I think he was tired too late in that match. So you say all you want about his foot speed, but he won that race. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, Brian, that's the specific example that I was thinking of. And I think Lawrence here in the chat it might be one of the things that he's pointed out as well. Also too, you got to take a lot of these early performances with a grain of salt, right? I mean, they're going to grow into match fitness. This is a group that's, as I said, some of these players have only been here for less than a week. So we'll give them time to grow into this. And I thought it was a good performance to start.
Yeah. You mentioned Lawrence's take. I know it was just up there, but for those who didn't see it, he says Engel will be the most impactful new transfer. Dude put in a low-key man-of-the-match performance in his debut, and he's going to be a huge part of the success this season on both ends of the pitch. So I think that's a good take there, Lawrence. He put in a good he didn't put in a full 90, but he put in a good shift there. One of the guys we haven't talked about, Josh, I know is probably a guy that you look to on the pitch is Roman Celentano as a goalkeeper, a man who's worn the gloves yourself a little bit, myself too. We haven't talked about Celentano, but man, early in that match when that back line looked a little shaky, dude came through with some big time saves to keep us in that match. Are we coming out with a 4-1 win if Celentano, I know they would, if he didn't make some of those saves, that's a ridiculous question, but are we coming out with a win as big as it is, maybe, if Celentano lets one or two of those squirt past him?
I mean, the obvious answer is no. I mean, you got to think about the mentality of the team, what happens when, if you're down 2-1, or you're down 1-0, like that first, that ping pong ball that gets cleared off the line, like what kind of mentality shifts if any of those squirt by. But no, what I think we saw yesterday was vintage Roman Celentano, in that you drafted him second overall because he was known as one of the best shot stoppers in college soccer and has only gotten better at that aspect. And we saw that yesterday. No spilled rebounds, anything that he kind of slipped by him, he grasped. Great reaction saves. Obviously, those weird bounces, Lucas Engel there to block a shot off the line, balls getting cleared off the line, but making every save he could. And that's exactly what you expect from him. And I think he's at that point now where, he kind of maybe is what he is, where, Lawrence is saying in the chat right now, his distribution is probably still a little weak. And, at some point, do we just chalk it up to Roman Celentano is going to be one of the best shot stoppers in MLS, but never be a great ball distributor? I mean, you hope he can figure it out a little bit, but I was encouraged in the sense that was the Roman Celentano last night that got him goalkeeper of the year nominations 2 years ago. And so I think that's if he can maintain that, he'll win one eventually.
And what are you talking about? Not good in possession. He got credit with dribbling a defender in the match, so you can't beat that. No, I this is another one where I think my natural inclination as a coach is, you don't get too low, you don't get too high. And I look at it and I'm like, man, I would love to see the post shot XG numbers, which we don't have because they don't keep it for CCC. But I think that his positioning was fantastic, spot on. So the saves he made that I was impressed with were the ones where he came out and got big and ended up just basically taking the ball off the knee or off the chest, that sort of thing. The actual saves that he made with his hands, I thought were pretty straightforward. He made 4 saves in all. And I did think I counted 2 times when I really wanted him to hold on to the ball or to push it wide. And instead he kind of pushed it right back into the play. One of them, he was able to then grab the ball before it went out for a corner, if you remember that one. The other one actually led to another shot that was blocked off the line by a defender. So, I think there are things that he will need to continue to improve on. But to me, that's a little bit heartening that he can still get better at those things, because we've seen him kind of take his shot stopping and hold it steady and maybe even improve it a little bit. So there's things to work with there.
Yeah, he was at the live show we did a few weeks ago. He was my pick for surprise player of the year, a current player that is going to shine this season. I think with even with the shaky back line earlier in that match, we saw him come through. I think he only gets better when Miazga gets out on the field in front of him, and his leadership begins to shine that way too. So Celentano kept us in that match early. We're grateful for his performance, and it let other guys like Pavel Bucha take away man of the match performances, maybe Lucas Engel. And, our goalkeeper just did his thing like he's supposed to do and doesn't ask for the praise. Right, Josh? That's how we roll as goalkeepers.
That's the life we live. We're the first ones to get blamed. We're the last ones to get praised. It's a tough life, but
gotta call
someone's got to do it.
But I will say this, I don't mean to hang on Celentano too long, but it was almost my hot take. You talk over under 10 goals, Nathan, for Pavel Bucha. I was going to say something about, the over under number of times he's going to kick the ball out of bounds versus the times he's going to hit his forward and his target. But we don't need to go there. We've talked about that in early seasons. I would just love for him to improve there. Guys, let's talk about improvement. We talk about mistakes. We've talked about the back line. Some leaky times. We saw Noah Adnan get beat on that header across the middle. What did we see? Mistakes that maybe could have been avoided moving forward that we have to maybe improve upon when we face an opponent at TQL Saturday in the New York Red Bull?
I think the first thing I would highlight is just the amount of simple turnovers there were. We talked about Evander's first touch of the ball being playing it down the line to nobody. Some of that's going to naturally clean up as the team gets better. But against a team like Red Bull that we don't know, because it's a new season, how they're going to create chances. But in the past, they haven't really created chances other than by turning you over in bad spots. So we need to make sure that, especially if the center backs the primary ball progressors, that they're not turning the ball over. Teenage Hadebe only completed 50% of his passes on the night from a center back position. That is worrying if you're talking about playing him and starting him against New York Red Bulls. Every time he touches the ball, you better believe that they're going to be swarming and ready to put him under pressure and hope that he passes it straight to a midfielder that's wearing red and black. Or Stone, or whatever that hideous jersey is.
Yeah, we don't need to go there. I didn't think it was as bad as most, but I don't want to give New York Red Bull any credit at the moment before we play them this Saturday. Josh, what'd you see?
I think we all kind of looked a little curious with the starting lineup of Corey Baird being in there. We're like, okay, maybe he can work his way in, but unfortunately, he was just a no-show again, and it sucks because he plays a versatile attacking position that this team needs right now, where he can play a second striker role. He can clearly be trusted to play a second 10 role, but he just wasn't active in anything. He there was a couple moves where he would make, and he maybe got fouled, but the ref wasn't buying it, and his movements just weren't attacking or threatening or progressing, or every time he seemed to receive the ball, he played it back, and it just, there was a disconnect between him and moving the ball forward. And I just don't know, like, where you go with him at this point. I mean, again, it's one game, so hopefully he develops, but he has the potential to be one of those first guys off the bench where you can rotate in strikers and attacking mids and whatever. But I don't know. I don't know how you can trust him at this point. I mean, I'm not Pat Noonan, but I don't know what he's seeing right now that's going to warrant those minutes.
Now, what I'm trying to think back, I'm trying to remember the moment. I believe it was Corey Baird. I was watching on my phone at the time, waiting for my son's practice to be done. So it was really small. Wasn't it Baird that played the ball? He lofted a ball to the far post to a running Kevin Denkey. Keeper gets a touch on it. They call it a goal kick. They didn't give him the corner. I had hopes that Baird was going to shine, like playing a ball to a back post runner, and that it was just a beautiful ball that keeper just got a hand on. So if that connects, maybe we're telling a different story about Corey Baird, because that builds confidence in a player when you can get a ball across there to your running striker early in a match. Maybe we're having a different conversation. I'm not willing to go there yet with Corey Baird. I think he's got a lot of performance to put in to change that narrative a little bit. Nathan, what did you see? I know we talked about the shaky back line. Where else do you see on the pitch that this team could improve and probably should improve before we move into Saturday's match?
Yeah, I mean, the back line's the low-hanging fruit, right? That's the easy one, especially when you have your quarterback back there, right, Miazga, right? When you have a strong leader like him, which was a notable difference that we were seeing at the end of last season, and that continues to be a issue moving into the beginning of this season with CONCACAF Champions Cup play, almost said league, a CCC play, and then into the regular season. So that's an obvious area for that. But we knew depth was going to be tested, right? I mean, you have a lot of, we're playing in Leagues Cup this year. We're playing in CONCACAF Champions Cup. We have a lot of regular season matches. You got playoffs. So, this is the deepest FCC team that we've had in a while, but that depth will continue to be tested. And Noonan's going to have to navigate that. You even see that in some of the choices on the back line with putting Powell on the left side, right? Even just to have someone who's familiar, who's been on the team instead of these recent draft picks, recent signings, and bringing them back there. So I think the depth piece is going to be probably, it's not necessarily a mistake, but it's probably the biggest challenge that the coaching staff has to navigate moving into the regular season on Saturday.
Yeah. And Alvis Powell was like the new Yu Kuba out there. He played 3 different positions: left center back, right center back, and left wing back. And then the assist where he floated that little clipped cross in with his left foot for Evander. I was like, who was that left footer that looked like Alvis Powell out there? It's pretty nice.
That was a beautiful ball across there. Nathan, while we got you on here, FC Bittlinger in the chat says that the game was played. He noted that the game was played at altitude that we're not accustomed to, right? Oxygen levels probably had something to do. How much of an impact do you think that made across that back line versus, further up the pitch? Maybe you're not running, you're not having to be on your heels as much, tracking backwards, moving forwards. What do you think? How much did that play?
It plays it a lot. Obviously, especially when you go to Mexico City to play. That's a big topic of conversation. It's even a big topic of conversation when you go to Dick's Sporting Goods Park in Colorado, right?
Mm-hmm.
That mile, you're at a mile high, right? And so of course that's going to wear on you, especially earlier on in the season. As we say, we keep talking about being match fit, but also you can't have that be an excuse for your play, right? You saw, even though they moved the match, right, it was still pretty cold in Kansas City, right? Like, you got to play in your environment. Miami went in there, was able to secure a win in the first leg, right? You have to play in the environments that you're given. And it's not like the coaching staff and the training staff isn't aware of those conditions going into that. We've known our opponent for a while, and we have to be prepared for that. Of course, it plays a large role, but it's going to be. We have a raucous home field environment, and people have to deal with that. And it might not be you're sucking wind on the end at TQL with how close we are to sea level, but hopefully the Bailey makes up for a little bit of that, and we have to bring our own home field advantage. So you got to deal with the consequences of where you play, and take advantage of your home field advantage.
Speaking of Dick's Sporting Goods Park, did you see the match the other night that was played there?
Yeah.
Colorado LAFC with about 15 fans at 10 degrees.
Yeah, kudos to those fans being there. I mean, the last time I was there was not a huge attendance, and I know that's something that, as a club, they struggle as far. But the faithful that are there are incredibly faithful. They do the best that they can to stir up a raucous crowd while there. That is. I've enjoyed watching CONCACAF Champions Cup play earlier on. I know Vancouver's playing tonight as well, so it's fun to see all these different stadiums and environments. And as we get around CONCACAF and no, Colorado is an interesting place to play for sure.
Yeah. Well, we mentioned, Alvis Powell being the new Yuya Kubo. Kubo's play last night was a little hit or miss for me. And I think he was putting in, a good shift defensively. He was progressing the ball a little bit. But when he was trying to take on defenders, he really ran into a challenge. It was almost, Josh, maybe it was you pre-show saying he looked like he was looking for his buddy, Lucho Acosta, right? Because he'd go at defenders and he'd look up and, who do I go to? Where do I go? I better keep it. And then he ends up running straight into defenders multiple times. And that late in the match, he takes it. He almost pulls a Lucho Acosta himself, right? Taking on 3 or 4 defenders across the top of the 18. He doesn't quite shift his body, doesn't get his hips turned. And we all know that's pretty key as a striker when you're shooting the ball. You got to get facing the goal, and the ball hits the outside of his right foot and just continues to bend further and further and further away from that far post. So the play of Yuya Kubo, I think I love the guy. I just don't think last night was his best match. I think we're going to see some improvement as he builds some chemistry with some of the guys around him. But he did look a little lost at times out there. Would you agree with that, Josh?
Yeah, I think so. I kind of came to that same conclusion. I mean, like I said with Baird, Kubo is going to be required to be one of those first off the bench rotating in guys. And yeah, there was just times where he was running with the ball and he would look, and you kind of see the way he moved and the way he was trying to pass, and it's just kind of he knows Lucho's not out there, right? He doesn't have to funnel the ball to Lucho anymore. He can kind of, and so you broke down that shot perfectly. He took guys on, it looked like Lucho again out there, where it's okay, now you can pass it. Oh, there's Kevin Denkey still in now you can pass it. Oh, and there's the shot that goes skies to the right. But I think he's gonna grow with these guys. He's gonna grow with. They mentioned on the broadcast he's been there since 2020, and it's kind of you look up and you're like, wow, Kubo is one of the most seasoned veterans on this team. It's all the new pieces around him, so he'll figure it out. He'll I think he'll get mixed in with these guys better, and I think better things are to come. But I agree.
And Kubo has never had an end product. He's never been the finisher or even the assist guy. The 10 goals that he got last year were kind of an aberration. But what he does well, he is actually elite at is balance. And so his ability to wriggle free and turn defenders and dribble forward is really good. And so I think playing in a dual 10 role, like he was last night with an Evander, hopefully next to him more, but with Corey Baird from the start, is really his best position. What Pat Noonan needs to continue to talk to him about is do your thing in that space, turn a defender, dribble, but then after you do that, look up and find Kevin or find Evander, right? There was even one play you're saying you're looking for Lucho. There was one play when Evander was wide open to his left, and then he turned and tried to play it down to the right for, I think that still was Yedlin at that point. And Evander was like, what, I'm right here, and it's those are the moments. But if you're expecting him to make that key pass or that final ball, I think you're always going to be disappointed. So hopefully Pat can get him doing what he's good at, and he won't have to be expected to score goals or provide the final pass because, of course, Bucha is winning the Golden Boot, and Kevin Denkey is going to be an assist leader since he had 2 key passes on the night.
That's right. That's right. Guys, let's talk about the starting lineup. I want to go back a little bit in time. We've talked about all these players, but we go into Tegucigalpa, right, facing Motagua. We expect, or I expected, us to roll out our starters from the get-go just to see what kind of chemistry we have. We have debuts on the pitch with Noah Adnan getting a start that maybe we didn't expect, right? Teenage Adebi coming out late for him. But we had debuts by Lucas Engel, Kevin Denkey, Noah Adnan. Evander comes in late in the match. Flores gets in there. Anunga gets in. Stefan Chirilla gets in there. We saw a lot of new players on the pitch last night. And one player we didn't see was Luca Orishano. He didn't travel. Coach's decision, what we're told, is what we understand. So the offensive output last night, let's think about this, came without Luca Orishano on the pitch. I think that, we only get better with him out there as we build that chemistry. Nathan, any surprises for you, or what was the biggest surprise for you in that starting 11?
Of course, I mean, Andon was the obvious one that everyone points to. I know there was some outcry online about Miazga, but we know he's still got a couple weeks left. I think Pat said that the other day in his pre-radio show with that. I think that was a surprise. I think a lot of us are licking our chops, as he said, with the potential of Luca coming back. I mean, having to account, you talk about Pavel getting a couple goals. Part of that comes from the fact that Denkey is not like Boop or Jurgen Lakadia 2.0, right? And he's a legitimate threat, right? He can pull the attention from those defenders, right? And now you have opportunities for Pavel, and you have opportunities for Evander. And if you throw Luca out there, and if Kuba's out there, and heck, why not Yedlin, right? Like, why does he have a couple shots that crack at frame, right? This is a really dangerous team to try to defend across the board. So while there are a few surprises, I think there are a lot of flashes of potential, and it could have gone a lot worse. 4-1, you're pretty happy with that result, especially with how makeshift the lineup was as we were going into the season.
Yeah. Coach, I want to talk a little bit about that formation, because we debated on the last show about the formation we're going to see against Motagua. Maybe the same sword formation that we saw last year, maybe a change up a little bit. So I want to talk a little bit tactically about that formation with those players on the pitch versus maybe a different set of players, it's a different starting lineup as we move forward. Before we get there, I want to thank our sponsor for the second half of our show, Beyond Exercise. It's a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury-free. In fact, they help some of our local MLS Next, and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs. Check out their suite of services at gobeyondexercise.com. Coach, let's get into these tactics a little bit. We saw the sword formation. No surprise to you, I don't think, in the formation that they played. How did it look different? What did you see that was different about this with this set of players than maybe we saw ending the season in 2024?
Yeah, so I think the interesting thing for me is that sword formation, we would call it a 3-4-2-1. So you have three center backs, four across the midfield as left wing back, Obi, Bucha, right wing back, and then two attacking midfielders underneath the striker, Kevin Denkey, right? 3-4-2-1. Well, actually in possession, it really turned into a 3-2-4-1. And so what that meant is the wingbacks pushed higher than that midfield line. And what you ended up is with a line of four left to right, you had Engel, then you had Kuba was on the right. So on the left, you had Baird. They kind of switched back and forth a little bit. And then on the right, Yedlin. And what ended up happening there is the center backs or the midfielders, when they picked up the ball, they had the ability to pass directly into a wing back, in which case then that attacking midfielder on that side could try to stretch down the line, down to the corner, or fold under, or they would try to pick up those pieces in the middle, that Kuba or that Baird, and get them on the half turn and running with the ball. So last year, because Lucho Acosta was the only pass you were looking for every time, basically the formation ended up being much more like amoebic. He would go where he wanted to go to try to get on the ball, and everybody had to move around him. Having this more structured formation allowed those predictable patterns of play. I can't tell you how many times in the first half I saw the ball go into Lucas Engel on the left, and then sometimes Kuba would check underneath him to receive a pass where he's facing goal, and sometimes he would sprint down down to the corner and allow Corey Baird to check into that space. And as you do that, you can say, oh, this time I folded under and the defender bit hard on that. Next time I'm going to check like I'm going to fold under, and then I'm going to sprint to the corner and maybe I'll get in behind, right? And even if you don't, you're pulling a defender for Corey Baird to come in. So that predictability allows that third runner, that Corey Baird, to actually know what he's going to do, as opposed to when Lucho Acosta's on the field and you're all, I keep saying, like the analogies like jazz music or Argentinian street soccer, you're all trying to wait on Lucho to see where you're going to go from there. Now, when Evander got on the field, they didn't change that. They definitely looked to get him on the ball more, but he played that left-sided attacking midfielder, similar to what I think in the first half it was Kubo, and then Kubo switched to the right for the second half. And so, again, you're still looking to get him on the ball in key spots, but it's not this free-flowing, total football type of soccer where everybody has to wonder where the next guy is going to go before they can go, and they're reacting all the time. They can actually be a bit proactive and think, this is the run that I'm going to make. And so there's pluses and minuses to that. That beautiful free flowing soccer, when it's working, looks really good. And it's almost impossible to defend because it's so unpredictable. But then the big plus is, again, you can get players like a Corey Baird or hopefully a youngster like Luca Orishano, who's going to know the exact run that he needs to make based on where the ball goes. And he'll be able to create a lot more opportunities for himself by making that run, instead of half the time maybe he makes the right run and half the time he's maybe out of position because he was anticipating something that never happened.
We talk about the back line a lot tonight so far. It seems that the formation you're talking about, the way they're pushing forward more, the wing backs are getting higher up the pitch. When Matt Miazga gets back in that lineup to anchor that center back, it pushes likely Miles Robinson out to the right center back. And we've got Teenage Hadebi, maybe Noah Adnan in that left center back position. We'll see how that plays out, right? It seems that with a stronger back line, that becomes even more productive moving the ball forward, because that those guys, not that Miles was bad in the back, I'm not saying that, but you get a talent like Miazga anchoring that back line, and you get an Orishano on the field. Nathan, it seems like it's only going to get better for our offensive players getting forward in the attack with the dangerous players that we have and the formation that maybe this allows them to play in. Do you think we're seeing more goals this season?
I think you have to, right? I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, right? I mean, last year there were moments where, especially to begin the season, that offense looked absolutely anemic, right? And I think a lot of the fan base, would rather sacrifice a little bit on the back line. I know last year we thought it was an area of depth that was challenged, right? But you love to see it, right? Options up front. And people, we forget too, we still have a chance to go out and get a DP, maybe in the summer window, maybe to help up front to augment that if things still aren't clicking. So I think we have a lot of opportunities on the offensive side of the ball this year.
Yeah. And I don't want to speculate too much on that DP role, because I wonder, and I don't know this, right? We don't know any of this. The coach's decision to leave Luca behind, are there still contract negotiations going on? It doesn't seem to be, but I wonder if that's part of that. Where's he going to fit in the roster as a DP or not? Maybe they're looking to save that spot for later. So I think more on that narrative to come for sure. Coach, we got, I'm just going to throw this out there. We just got a comment that came in about, I miss talking tactics. Is it coming back? I miss talking tactics. Says it twice. Coach, are you able to address that now, or should we push that off to another time?
Well, I can talk a little bit about it if the answer is I don't know, but I met up with Justin Hoyt today. He gave me this gem. If you're on the podcast, I'm holding up a game-worn, signed Justin Hoyt jersey from the USL days. And we recorded an episode. So the rub there is Justin Hoyt is not going to be back almost certainly. He is now working for the club as an academy coach. So we've talked within CST here. I'm going to be on this maiden show way more often, and we're going to try to get a little more tactical at times here. I'm not sure if I will still do something with talking tactics. It might be just me picking out one, tactical idea and talking talking about it. I almost certainly will not do the entire breakdown of the game like I was doing with Justin, because I'm hoping to do more of that here. So we're hoping that Talking Tactics can fit in with the CST lineup instead of being like a competing show where we basically do the same thing we do here on Monday night, but just more tactically.
Yeah. Thanks for addressing that, Mark. Appreciate you asking that question too. I know that's a favorite show and a favorite segment, and we do hope that Coach can bring some of that here on Monday nights, as he just mentioned. Gentlemen, we do have. It was a fun start to the season in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, but we do have an opening match coming up this Saturday against New York Red Bull, coming into TQL Stadium, where FC Cincinnati has not beaten New York Red Bull on that field at TQL. Could this be what we saw Wednesday night? Could this be the first win that FCC brings home against the Red Bull?
Yes.
The
Flat
obvious
out.
Answer, yes.
Flat out, yes. No, I mean, it's Red Bull, right? It's a rivalry game. You're going to get Red Bull soccer no matter where they are. It's going to be gross. You're going to hate it. It's not going to be pretty. But what you get now on Saturday with this taste in your mouth of like potential, right? We have now seen kind of what this could potentially look like. So I mean, obviously Red Bull is going to look a little bit different with, Choupo-Moting is the big signing there. I'm curious about that. Tim Parker makes his return to Red Bull. So, but their pieces move around. Obviously, John Tolkien is now out of the picture. Van Zier is out of the picture. And so you've got some pieces moving around, but Red Bull Soccer is going to be Red Bull Soccer, and so you're gonna have to figure out a way to break out of the mud and play. So, but guys are starting to play now. Evander, I fully expect to start and play at least 60 minutes. He might be on the old Pat Noonan minutes check of 60 minutes, and then he comes out. Same thing with Teenage Hadebi. I'll be curious to see what decisions get made out of that, because this is an opportunity to get off on the right foot with the pieces that you expect to carry you this season. So,
Coach, what changes do you think we see in the starting lineup and maybe tactically with Red Bull coming to town?
Yeah, man, I think that playing Red Bull in the first match of the regular season has got to be the worst time to catch them because two reasons. Number one, their core of veterans that are supposed to be superstars are old. And I'll get with that right now. But so you have old aging veterans, but you're getting them on the first game of the season when they are at full health. And then on top of that, Red Bull Soccer, that energy drink soccer where you are just going to like fly around and create car crashes all over the field is just way easier to get into rhythm because there is no rhythm. So it's not really getting on the same page with your other players as much. So I think it's going to be a tough match. All that to say, I think actually the tactics we saw away in Honduras at altitude with not starters out there is going to be they're going to be the same tactics, because what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot more long balls trying to play over that press. So you're going to dump the ball into the channel and let Kevin Denkey go chase it. You're going to see Miles Robinson being asked to progress that ball because Bucha and Obi are going to be tucked in and being a little bit more tight in case there's a turnover so they can counter press right away and those sorts of things. So I think I would not be surprised, actually, you're going to hate to hear it, if FCC were to lose this match. And I don't just mean like, oh, anything could happen. I mean, I think if I made a Growler Cup prediction, I think I would predict a loss because of what I said off the top. But I do think the defense is strong enough to keep Red Bull from creating anything on their own. And I think the attack is strong enough to where if we can hit those channels with Kevin Denkey and if he can create a bit of magic, we could definitely get out with a win. I just don't think it'll be a 4-1 win. I could see it being like a 1-0 or a 2-1.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned Growler Cup, and that's a good time to shout that out. If you'd like to support Cincinnati Soccer Talk in making content like this, these midweek shows, our Monday night live shows, jersey swap, talking tactics, whatever happens with that, our YouTube content, we've got the orange and blue profiles that are happening. If you'd like to support Cincinnati Soccer Talk in making more content like this, head over to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. From there, you're able to sign up to our Patreon and make a one-time donation. A $5 a month Patreon subscription enters you into the Growler Cup competition, which begins this week, where if you correctly pick the outcome of FCC's MLS matches over the course of the season, you could win some sweet prizes. First round starts this Saturday, so if you are part of our Patreon support team, we would love to get you in the Growler Cup. And if you're not there yet, join our support team over at Patreon. We'd love to hear from you. Get in touch with us at Cincinnati Soccer Talk on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, or email us at, according to Coach, our new email address at feedback@cincinnati-soccertalk.com. And we'd love to hear from you and get your questions and address those here on the show. Gentlemen, the hour is approaching. It's 8:30, and we want to get into some of our final thoughts. Now, we've done some questions in the past. I want to just go straight up. Final thoughts. What are you thinking coming out of this match, going into the New York match, or maybe something else altogether? Nathan, we're going to start with you.
Yeah, no, just an encouraging start to the season. Personally, I know some people love the Open Cup. Some people love Leagues Cup. I don't know why, but I'm a big fan of CONCACAF Champions Cup. And so I've enjoyed really watching these games throughout the season, regardless of whether they're MLS on MLS action or whether you have some of these other leagues involved. So that's been exciting to watch, and I'm looking forward to our second leg at TQL. Also, it's a very patriotic night for sports, and so I wanted to have a shout out for the U.S. Women's National Team. They're playing in the She Believes Cup tonight. They started 30 minutes ago. I haven't checked the score yet. And there's also some other U.S. men's national teams playing tonight. So it's 0-0. Great. Thanks, Coach. 0-0. Yeah.
0-0. Josh, you were literally, well, first of all, Nathan, thank you for being part of the show tonight. It was a great take there early on in the show. Looking forward to this season working with you here on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. But I have to say, where I jumped ahead of myself, Josh was literally biting his tongue when you made the Leagues Cup comment. So, Josh, I don't know if you want to address that or just go straight into your final thought, but I'll toss it to you.
We'll save the Leagues Cup talk for when Leagues Cup. Nate, I'm penciling it down. Let's put something on the books. Hot debate about the Leagues Cup. I'm a fan, but let's just leave it at that. No, my final thought kind of parlays into what Coach was saying of, if things go south on Saturday, it's okay. This is a marathon, not a sprint. I think what we learned last night was that this team has a makeup and has the potential to do something really special this season. So it's going to be bumpy. Matt, the defense is going to get healthier. The offense is going to gel better somehow. And there's going to be bumps in the road, and that's likely going to be in the beginning of the season. But I think, as we have always seen, that the beginning of the season you can kind of make up for in the back half. So everyone just breathe. Let's root for a win. Let's keep the great vibes going. But if things go a little squirrely on Saturday, we'll just chalk it up to crappy Red Bull soccer. Move on.
Thanks, Josh, for joining us tonight. And look at this. We didn't even cut you short. We gave you a full hour on a Thursday night show because you had so much to add. So we appreciate you being here and being part of CST. Josh, hope to have you back again soon. Coach, I'm going to toss it to you for your final thought of the night.
Yeah, I've created this tradition of trying to really make everybody who sits in the Bailey really angry at me at least once or twice a season. So I figured I'd try to get that out of the way right now. And this is going to be my annual or biannual appeal to, if you sit in the Bailey, quit booing and quit flipping, quit acting like you have broken fingers and the only one that works is the middle finger. I know you want to be raucous. I know you want to be fun. I know you want to really give it to the other team. You can do all of those things without negativity, and it is scientifically proven. This is not coach's opinion, although it is also coach's opinion, it is scientifically proven that negativity only breeds more negativity. So if you want to have a team playing positive, front foot, exciting soccer, bring the positivity instead of always booing and acting like you're only there to tear down the other team. How about build up the boys in orange and blue a little bit? All right, send all of your hate mail to me on Twitter, because I canceled that account, at FC Cincy Tac Talk.
Or our new email address. Coach, it's fun having you on tonight and switching places with you. Maybe we'll do more of this. Obviously, always appreciate your tactical conversation and what you add to the show. So tonight was no different. Thanks for being here. It's going to be a cold night at TQL on Saturday against the Red Bull. It's always a tough match. Get out and support the team. Coach, the positivity, I love it. No one loves, I don't love being in a stadium where people are screaming and throwing stuff on the field. And not that happens at TQL, but it's so much more fun at TQL when the team, the fans are cheering on the team and celebrating. So get out there this cold night, Saturday, for a home opener, Cincinnati's first win against the Red Bulls in TQL Stadium. Gentlemen, with that, I'm signing off. My son plays in about 30 minutes, and I've got to get up to watch him and cheer him on and not yell and boo at those referees like I do want to sometimes. So with that, we're signing off. Thanks for joining us tonight on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We'll see you next time.